and I'm sure we're in for a great conversation. We're glad you're here, and we look forward to the discussion and the questions and interactions that will follow after the presentation. I will turn things over to Andrew, and he will present us with a really short video, also welcoming you and giving you more detail about being in the living room. Thank you for being here.
Great. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you here. Glad to get started. And what I want to do is just, let's see, share my screen. And we got a quick video that we can show you before we get started, just to tell you a little bit more about what the DV connector is all about. Okay, and let's see if I can just get it to go. Okay. Something strange with my computer. Okay, there we go. Okay. So here's Kaylin.
DV Connector Network. DV stands for Divine Visions, and we came together. It's a group of professionals from a variety of different industries and backgrounds and places, and we are connected by one man, Don Viapre. Don Viapre in 2015, I say, graduated from the workforce. He retired, and there was a celebration. And that celebration allowed many of us, his mentees, and he's an advisor to so many, we know that, but many of us came together during that celebration, and it was such a special time that we said we wanted to continue doing that. So periodically we get together in the room face to face, and it was a special time of sharing. So we're coming together to just be in the room and experience the energy and the wisdom that comes from our speakers. We came together because Don retired. He said to us on that day, sure, let's start getting together, but I want you as a group to continue to bond, learn from one another, connect with one another, uplift one another, support one another. And so that's what we've been doing. So this is an extension of what started back in 2015. And so I want to just acknowledge Andrew Frazier, who is in the room and who is very much, on board and very supportive of us coming together.
Okay. Great. Okay, well, since I'm here live, I may as well say hi live. Thanks for joining in. Of course, we want to make it great experience for you. We've got a great speaker today, great programs. We also have other things going on that we want you to know about. So I'm just going to share a couple of events and activities that you should know about. Number one, we do have the DV Connector Network. That is a way that you can, first from our website, you can connect to it, connect to the recording of the previous session with Precious, and you'll also be able to come here and connect with the recording of this session after the session's over. Joining the DV Connector Network gives you a chance to be part of the community. It's a way that you can get access to previous recordings, connect with other people in the network, post information that's going on. So if you ever want to know what's going on, or if there's someone in the network that you want to connect with, you can just send them a chat through the network. So, and then we've got the recordings of, all the sessions. So if you've missed any, you can go back and see them. So definitely, encourage you to do that. An event that's coming up this Tuesday, you may want to check out, especially if you're a business owner. Gateway Chamber, Black Business Alliance. We're going to have a holiday event in Montclair, New Jersey, Wednesday night. And then finally, I'm launching my new book this coming Friday. So we're going to have a virtual launch, and you're welcome to join us. We'll have some guests. Actually, Precious Williams is going to join us as well. So those are some things that are coming on tap. So let me turn it over to Dawn, and we can take it from there. So let's see.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you for all that you do for the DV Connector Network. And I appreciate all that Doreen and Kaylin are also doing in order to keep the virtual living room occupied and for us to be able to host presenters such as the one that we have today. Now, I've known this young man for, I imagine, over 20 years. I first met him when he was involved, I believe, in dealing with young people. And anyone who deals with young people attracts my attention because I look at young people as my insurance policy. You know, if we don't ensure that young people are conscientized, are having a foundation, then we're not in good care. And Dan has been tending to the flock before I met him, as I got to know him. And he's very passionate in his work with young people. He grew up in Newark. He went to Rutgers University and graduated with a master's in public administration. He also received numerous awards for his outstanding service while on campus. He worked with the Boys and Girls Clubs. He, at the same time, is a member of Phi Alpha Alpha Honor Society with magna cum laude. And during his time as a graduate student, he also accepted fellowships from the USAID Global Development in Cape Town, South Africa, where he researched ways to improve STEM education. Dan's professional experience ranges for anywhere from being a senior manager for community engagement with Newark Public Schools to being an assistant director at Rutgers University and Cooperman College Scholars, community relations with Newark Fairmont Promise neighborhood. So he's been very active, and you need to go on the link that you have for this invitation to get more details about this dynamic young man. So without further ado, I ask Dan to grace us with his words and his experience of his life journey and any work that he has coming up as we push our Ujamaa and being the captain of our vessel. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Ron. So, Don, for that wonderful presentation and introduction to me. I appreciate you, my big mentor, my big brother. It's been an amazing experience being able to be in your shadow for all these years. So truly, I thank you for this invitation and the conversations that we've had throughout the years. To the team, to the DV Connector team, Andrew, thank you so much for this. Doreen, Caitlin, the whole family. Thank you. You know, I'm super excited for today's presentation to be able to give you some information more so about my story, but more so about ways that I believe can empower you and motivate you. Today's presentation is focused on something that I believe all of us have been able to participate in, especially if we are in this room today, in the living room, as I was told, the living room that represents family, the living room that represents sitting on the couch, grabbing your cup of coffee, the living room that represents when you go inside your home, your house, there's a level of comfort. So I want you all to get comfortable right now. Wherever you are, if you're in the car, pull over. Get comfortable. If you're at home, grab your cup of coffee now. Now's the time to grab your coffee. I know Don mentioned earlier that he was getting his second cup of coffee. He's ready for today. Now, are you all ready for today? I want you guys to settle in, get comfortable, get what you need. Matter of fact, if you get the chance, grab a pen and pad, because there may be some thoughts or something that comes within your spirit that you just need to jot it down, that you just don't want to forget. Now's the time to do so. Today's presentation is the power of exposure. I'm going to repeat that again. Today's presentation is the power of exposure. Today's agenda is going to be brief. If you see me getting excited, or please just excuse the passion that I have for this work that I've been doing for these years. As you see, the welcome is going to take you on a journey. We're going to go through different stages of my life that really led me to where I am today, as Dan denotes. Don was able to mention my credentials, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Not so much to bring glory to me or the work that I've been doing, but more so to just walk you through the fact of how good God has been for me, but also how good of mentors that I've been surrounded by. So the learning goal, there's an objective, just like you would be in a college classroom, and just like you would be if you're in the education field. There has to be a goal. What is the objective of today? I want you all to leave with the understanding about the impact of how mentorship can be in your life, how it can not only change the trajectory of young people that you may be working with, or young people that you're possibly mentoring, but more so even for you. I'd include that part in today's presentation about how the right exposure can change your trajectory as a professional. I know we all have stories that we can share. I know we have a lot of things that we can share with one another. But for today's sake, I want us to be able to join me in this quick little icebreaker so we can get to know one another. Who's on the call? If you can include your name, the region that you are from or located at the present time, and also, what is the greatest advice that you received from a mentor? What is the greatest advice that you received from a mentor? And Doreen, thank you so much for being able to assist me with the chat. I really appreciate you helping me with that. But I want to hear, let's share this information, because I'm sure there's a gem that you all have that could benefit someone within this room. If this is about connecting one another, then surely this advice that you will be able to share in the the chat is definitely going to improve not just you, but also the person who's going to be reading that as well. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds, if you can include in the chat. Please don't be shy. Your name, the region that you are located, and what is that greatest piece of advice that you received from a mentor? The greatest piece of advice that you received from a mentor. Let's see if there's anyone who is able to add that greatest piece of advice that you received from a mentor, and where are you located? Where are you all right now? In my case, I am in Mexico right now. I'm actually presenting from Cancun, Mexico. So as I jokingly said earlier, this is now, officially called an international speaker, right? I'm here, same time zone, but in a different country. So please, okay, great. Believe in yourself and don't give up. Gene, New Jersey mentor once told me, you make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. Yes, don't beat yourself. Anyone else from Washington, D.C., from New Jersey, anyone else want to be able to share in the chat a piece of advice? This is not just going to be beneficial for you, but also the ones who are reading it. This is great advice. One advice that I received from a mentor, so many advices, but one thing I remember is, don't burn any bridges. Don't burn any bridges. It was just that simple. And in the career that I've had, what you'll understand how important that is, not to burn any bridges. So let's continue and let's move on. So as mentioned from Don, this is my background. I'm the founder of Leaders of the 21st Century. I'm the founder and executive director. We were founded about 9 years ago. I used to work for the Newark Board of Education, which for those of you who do not know, it's the largest school district in the state of New Jersey. I've attended Rutgers University, graduated with honors with a 3.8 GPA average. And later on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. I worked at Prudential, as well as an aide to Cory Booker, well, now Senator Cory Booker. And I also wanted
Sorry, I just wanted to say that you're not presenting. Your slide is not going. I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that. You all can't see my screen?
All we see is the power of exposure, but your slide is not going through.
Ah. Okay, that is strange. What do you see now?
Still just the power of exposure. We see exactly what's on your screen right now. The small screens on the left. The power of exposure is in the middle, and then some pictures on the right. But
Okay.
those, like, I think what you're trying to present is not coming through.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, a little technical difficulty. Let's see if this makes a difference. Can you see my main slide now?
It's still
Says
coming up. It says you started screen sharing, but it hasn't populated yet.
Okay, well, this is odd. One second, please bear with me. Thank you so much for bringing that, because I definitely went on a few slides already. So thank you so much. And who was that? Who was that who gave me that?
Asaki Simon.
Thank you so much, Asaki. Thank you so much.
Well, I know you worked hard on it, so you want to show it, but I wasn't sure at first, and I was like, okay, let me just jump in, because I would hate to have to prepare all of that, and I can't see it.
Okay.
Okay, so now we see you with your hands folded. So I
Thank
think
you.
we're on
Thank you so much. Ah, man, if I had a trophy for you. Oh man, if I had a something for you.
You want to go back just so we see the other ones and then just come through to this one?
Sure, absolutely. So this is where we started with this first slide. Thank you so much for that. We went to this slide, which was the agenda, to kind of walk you all through what the presentation. I appreciate you, my sister. Thank you.
You're welcome. You left off at Cory Booker.
Yep,
you didn't get to leaders of 21st or anything.
Thank you. So with the agenda, the walkthrough with all of this is what we're going to be going through today. This was the learning goal that I mentioned to you all about. It's going to kind of walk you through how, exposure mentorship is the right way to go about it, and how successful it is for youth, but also for you as a professional. This was the icebreaker slide that we mentioned. The greatest advice you received from a mentor, name and region. And then this is where I left off on, just kind of walking you through my experience through my undergraduate year. I took interest in leadership through my undergraduate years, and the focus was on what makes effective leaders. I really found this interesting, this subject. So I created my own major. My major was called the Rhetoric of Leadership, which was focused on becoming literally the best version of yourself as a leader. From that, I graduated from Hobart William Smith with my own major, went into politics, worked for Cory Booker. At the time, he was the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. With that, I was his body aide. So wherever he went, I went. I then transitioned to work for Prudential in the Human Resources Department, where it was just a phenomenal experience of really learning what is required to be a professional in this industry. From there, I had so many mentors that I was able to connect and really pour into me as a young professional. And then from that, the career just continued to grow and grow and grow to being a community organizer, learning how to bring parents together on how to mobilize for quality education, whether that is traditional district school or public charter school, whatever your interest was for your child. The idea was, how do you advocate for your children in this field? And then I went to graduate school. Traveled to South Africa, lived there for 2 months doing research on STEM education. Went to South Korea, did 1 week in public policy with the government of Seoul Metropolitan. Was able to really understand the value and importance of my life in a different level. And then when I came back, I then decided to create my own nonprofit called Leaders of the 21st Century, which is what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. My story is simple. As a young kid, I was constantly getting into trouble. My life was filled with joy as a young boy, But unfortunately, the neighborhood that I grew up in oftentimes took my joy away. And what I mean by taking my joy away was more so I was getting into a lot of trouble as a kid. I was constantly getting into fights. I had terrible grades. I was always getting suspended, always getting in detentions. I had what you call a chip on your shoulder. Although I was small, I never backed down from a fight. And what I mean by that, I mean physically using these hands. But no matter how big the component was, no matter how old they were, I just felt that I had to be this tough guy. For whatever reason, that's just how I was. I was always ready to rock and roll with someone. My grades suffered, which resulted in me being a failing student. I mean, D's and F's, those were the grades I was getting on my report card. School was difficult, and I didn't get the help that I felt I needed from my teachers at the time. I felt they gave up on me, to be honest with you. But I had an opportunity of going to professional singing school, and this is the photo that you see here. Maybe you can see where I am. You know, if I had a game, we could figure out which one is me. But to save you all the effort, I'm the gentleman or the young boy next to the teacher on the left. I have the black suit on, white shirt, black tie. This was me in probably the 6th grade of Newark Boys Chorus School, which was a world-renowned singing school. Unfortunately, they recently closed. I had opportunities to sing all around the world, from Jamaica and Barbados, to singing on Good Morning America, from singing in Carnegie Hall. Can you believe that? A young boy at the tender age of 10, 11 years old, 9 years old, singing in Carnegie Hall. It was an amazing experience, an opportunity of a lifetime. But for some reason, I just always got into trouble. It wasn't that I didn't have good parents. My father's a pastor. My mom was super involved in my life. My father was super involved in my life. I'm the youngest of 7. So I had a strong family foundation, but unfortunately, the neighborhood was resulting from a lot of crime. And unfortunately, the time in Newark, New Jersey in the 90s was really like the Wild, Wild West. There was a point in my life I didn't think I could graduate out of middle school. I'm gonna let that sit in for a little bit. There was a point in my life I didn't think I could make it out of middle school. That's how much I struggled. But something happened that changed my life. I attended a summer Christian military camp called Lake Delaware Boys Camp, and it really began to kind of hone in my leadership skills, understanding the value of how to be a great leader. This is me here, the first person you see kind of in the screen. Have the ranking along my left shoulder. You see the letter A on my shoulder, representing the part of the company that I was a part of, which was called ACO. I love this place. I love the structure that I had there. I thrived. It was a home away from home for the 5 weeks in the summertime. You didn't go back home. You stayed there for 5 weeks, living in outdoor tents on wooden platforms. But I loved it. We played sports every day. We had church every morning, and on Sunday we had church twice. We marched every day. We had fake rifles. There was drill teams. I mean, it was amazing. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And what I really loved about that was that the camp director really began to see something in me. And fortunately, him and his wife made a decision that they didn't want me to waste my life away. And what did they offer? They offered me an opportunity of a lifetime. Because of this potential, I was like a diamond in the rough. Those of you who are into Disney movies, that's what Aladdin used to say, you know, a diamond in the rough. They came up with a plan to allow me to move away from Newark, New Jersey, to move upstate New York in Geneva, New York. Now, this was a plan. This was an idea. They pitched it to my family, my mom and dad. They signed off on it because they believed this was part of God's plan. So I moved away from my family at the age of 11 and moved in with a different family that did not look like me. That family was called Wendy and Jim Trowbridge, just regular good people, but they happened to be white. At the time of moving into the home of Wendy and Jim Trowbridge, I didn't really know how my experience would have been living with them. All I could think of was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I love, you know, the sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I thought moving in with Wendy and Jim would mean I would get all the Jordans I've ever wanted. I thought I could get all the Coogee sweaters I could get my hands on. Man, I thought I was gonna get spoiled in terms of all of this every desire that I wanted. But what they did spoil me with was more so that they didn't give up in me. They believed in me and took a chance on the outcome of who I would be and who I was destined to be. In fact, the very first time that they met me, I was actually, in fact, in school detention. When they came to visit me at the school, can you imagine? Can you imagine? You decided that you're going to take a young boy into your household, coming from Newark, New Jersey, a Black first generation Haitian American kid, and you're a white family, and you come in to meet me for the first time, and you see this kid in school detention. So they already knew what time it was, and they still decided to still take me in. And what they did with me changed my life. They gave me access to resources that I may have not been able to easily get. The tutoring that I received and all the subjects I was struggling in, they were able to pay for that for me. I would not be who I am today if not for Wendy and Jim. They changed my life. They saved me in the point of time where I thought, things were impossible. And these two human beings decided to take a leap of faith. We all believe it was God ordained, which we truly do believe. And here I am today in the result of them and my parents allowing me, because this is the part that is very challenging. My mom and dad, can you imagine the sacrifice of what that was like to say, you know what? We love you so much. We love you so much that we're going to allow this to happen for you, although you won't be with us during the school year. And because of that, I was able to then go to Hobart and William Smith colleges. At my time at Hobart, William Smith colleges, I was a young kid who kind of didn't understand, again, how to kind of navigate this world. I thought middle school was impossible. Well, good thing I made it out of middle school. For sure, I thought high school was going to be difficult, which it was, but I made it out of high school. Then I was able to go to Hobart William Smith colleges, and there I was able to meet my first mentor. And what I mean by my first mentor is not someone who was already mentoring me because they took, that type of focus, but more so me physically asking someone, could you mentor me? I knew at that time when I made it to Hobart William Smith colleges that I wanted to be the best version of myself. I thought if I was given an opportunity of a lifetime of going to this prestigious liberal arts school, I would not waste it. I also knew that I needed help in getting to a different level, the next level. If we can add into the chat box, please, next level. Could we, I know if you're driving, please don't do so. If you're driving, we want you to get to your destination safe. But if you're home sitting in your living room, and although we're a part of a virtual living room today, please add in the chat box, just next level. And with that, I decided to go to this man named Mark Guerin. He was the president of Hobart William Smith colleges and still is today, if he could mentor me. And this here was one of the best decisions that I made in my life. And that decision really allowed me to understand what exposure and what mentorship looks like. One of the greatest things that he was able to share with me, because he saw something in me, was, Dan, I believe you have a good chance in running for the student trustee position. The student trustee position is similar to what the board of trustees does for college. However, they allow a student to be able to sit on the board of trustees, and you have the right to vote as a student. Same power and privilege that the board of trustees have, you have as a student. And he shared with me, he believes that this would be a good fit for me to run. And it was a campaign. It was a big fight. Oh man, it was my first taste of what politics looks like. And he was able to pitch this to me, and I was able to become a student trustee for the board of trustees at Hobart and William Smith colleges. Here's a short little video I'm going to share with you just to kind of show you who I was as a student while I was at Hobart William Smith. On the left is President Guerin. In the middle, this young lady, she was also a student trustee who was elected by the people. And then me on the right.
From Hobart and William Smith colleges, this is Meet the Campus with John Heavey.
Each week, we'll take you into the offices, residence halls, and workspaces of real HWSD.
This week, we'll pick the brain of senior Dan DeNose, step into the office of Hobart Dean Eugen Baer, and sit down with the Associate Dean for Teaching, Learning, and Assessment, Susan Pleiner. So join me this week and every week for Meet the Campus with me, John Heavey, the most trusted name in news. Hobart senior Dan DeNose never takes a day off. He created his own major, the Rhetoric of Leadership, and started his own developmental program for underprivileged boys. Dan is committed to being a leader in his community.
who knows where my role may take me? You know, maybe I may end up going to politics, but for now, I don't know. I originally was a little nervous about, coming to Hobart Williams Smith because I thought everyone going to college had an idea what they wanted to major in, and I had no clue whatsoever. Taking different courses, history courses, political science courses, things like that. The idea of rhetoric and leadership came about. Rhetoric leadership deals with how to become an effective leader. Public speaking is a big factor of leadership. Learning about different people cultures is a big part of leadership. Being inclusive is a big part of being a leader. In order to learn about national politics, you have to learn about local politics. So what I did was I created an independent study called The Inner Workings of City Politics. There's a lot more to politics than just what we see on TV. There's a lot behind the scenes. It's been good. It's been real good.
So that video there is just a small little snippet of my life when I was a student at Hobart Williams Smith Colleges. When I asked President Guerin to mentor me, I had no clue who he was. All I knew was that he was the president of Hobart Williams Smith. And I thought, how do I become a better leader? Who would be the best person to teach me leadership, if not the president of the college? And that was that. I didn't know. I didn't Google him. I didn't know about how to research people at the time. All I saw was just him. He could be helpful. It was later, it was much later, I think maybe my sophomore year in college, where he allowed me to work in his office as an assistant. It really was basically filling in the time lunch break for his real assistant. So when the real assistant went to lunch break, I was in the office answering the phones and taking notes. I didn't know how to dress appropriately for the job. I was coming into his office. Please, if you know a young person, please pull them aside and tell them how to dress successfully for the job. I would come into his office with Tim's on, baggy jeans, colorful hoodies. I mean, and he never pulled me aside and tell me differently. He just allowed me to be who I was as a student. But one day I decided to research him. And in my research, I then discovered who the man was. He used to be the chief of staff for President Bill Clinton. He also was the director of communications for the White House for a period of time. He was also the director of the Peace Corps. I mean, phenomenal human being on a national level of politics, but also a great president, a great mentor, and really a great advisor to me still to this day. But one of the experience of being able to sit on the board of trustees is, again, I didn't really know how to dress appropriately for the workforce. And in that, I then had an experience. On the left side is a gentleman named Bill Whitaker. Bill Whitaker is the news correspondent for CBS, for the news. And one day, as I was coming out of a dinner, Mr. Whitaker walked out of the dinner place and he just had this beautiful coat on. And he was so sharp, so clean. And this was my first time in my life seeing how he was dressed and seeing the type of coat that he had on. I mean, it just signified wealth to me when this Black man was walking across the street. And I've never in my life saw that in person. I only saw this on TV to that level of success. And that is when I then begin to understand how people can perceive you based off how you are dressed. I was exposed to something at that time I didn't realize I needed. Later on, I will read an excerpt from a chapter of my book that talks a little bit about my experiences, but this was my first example of how to dress for success as a young person. I was exposed to this. Again, the power of exposure. I was exposed to great mentor and President Guerin. I was exposed to how do you actually dress professionally for the workplace from Bill Whitaker. Then I was also exposed to how to navigate the nuances of local communities when I was able to work for Cory Booker when he was the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. In my introduction of meeting Cory Booker, it was really truly through the power of exposure. A mentor of mine said, "Dan, what is your plans after college?" I said, "I don't know. I don't have a job lined up." At that time, if you all remember, in 2010, we were in a recession. The job market was terrible. I mean, folks were unemployed was the highest at the time. And for sure, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was considering joining the military, having the experiences that I had as a young kid at the program I was a part of. I thought the Army would be the best fit. But a mentor of mine said, "Dan, I want to introduce you to some people on a career day." So he created a career day for me. In that, I was able to meet Cory Booker. And in the introduction of Cory Booker, he said, what do you want to do in 10 years? I said, 10 years, I want to be able to have my own nonprofit. And he said, well, that would be great. He said, I didn't know that much clarity when I was your age. And then from that turned into Let's Stay in Touch. And from that, I was offered my first job out of college working as his body aide. And what does a body aide mean? That means wherever he went, I went. When Oprah film crew came into town and they told us not to look at the camera, believe in me, I looked at the camera. I wanted to make sure my mom and my dad saw me on TV. When we traveled throughout the city of Newark, I was in the car with him. When we were going to any type of things that he needed to do as a mayor, I was alongside him. It was truly a humbling experience, an experience that really was able to start my career as a young leader, to really enter into the field of serving my people. And in serving my people, these are the years of experiences that happened throughout my journey. I love what I do. Returning back home to Newark, I had something that I believe I had to give back to see my community thrive. But I wasn't sure in what capacity. During the time of figuring out my career, from politics to community organizing to graduating out of graduate school, as mentioned, I was a failing student in elementary school. So being able to have all these experiences, I for sure did not see this happening when I was an 11-year-old boy struggling in school. I for sure, with all the imagination that I had and all the things that I believed in that I could really do for myself, I did not see myself being in a place that I was in. But something happened. On the picture on the far right is, again, my time in Newark Boys Chorus School. The picture on the left is my time graduating with a 3.8 GPA average from Rutgers School of Public Administration and Affairs. And the photo in the middle is my time spent in Cape Town, South Africa. Based on the research I was doing, I had to visit local schools to figure out how to support their after-school STEM programs. I would visit all the different townships within Cape Town. And in visiting this particular day, the students just flocked to us, and it was just a moment of joy. Look at the joy on these kids' faces. Look at the pure joy on these little children's faces. But why am I showing you this picture? The picture on the right represents a kid who was struggling, who didn't know where he was going to end up in his life. Then the picture on the far left is me graduating with a degree that I didn't think was imaginable. One day when I was looking in the mirror, I saw the hoodie of Rutgers SPA, School of Public Affairs Administration, and tears began to come in my eye, because as I was reflecting and thinking to myself, Dan, there's a point in time where you didn't think you could make it out of middle school. Middle school, come on, y'all, middle school. There's a point in time, based off of all the trouble I used to get into, I just never would have thought I would be in a position of now helping young kids, not just locally, but also globally. And this would have not been possible if it was not for the right mentors in my life, being exposed to the right opportunities, having access to the rooms that many of us oftentimes are invited in. And in those rooms, we want to be able to sit at the table, to be decision makers, to be able to have impact on a larger scale. And in all of these experiences, I decided that I need to build an organization that is going to make a difference in the lives of young people throughout this world. And that journey led me to Leaders of the 21st Century. Leaders of the 21st Century was founded about 9 years ago with the mission to develop civic-minded youth leaders and prepare them for the world of work and beyond. We expose our young people to professional and leadership development skills. We invite highly skilled professionals who come in and share an hour of their time presenting different topics, whether it may be an attorney of the law, or whether it is a fashionista, or whether it is someone in coding, or whether it is an entrepreneur or an educator. Whatever the career may be, we want to expose our young people to the possibilities of what they didn't know existed. Many of us go in a particular path based on what we know, but there's so much more out there that we do not know. And my job and my goal and my objective is to prepare them to transition out of high school successfully, so that no matter what pathway they take, whether it is college, whether it's career or trade or military, that we give them the skills that are needed. The mission is to develop civic-minded youth leaders in urban communities. We are focused on enhancing career and college readiness skills for high school students, particularly juniors and seniors. And recently, we are now opening the program to some sophomores, which I'm so excited about. From our time of starting as a first cohort in 2017 with 5 young people in the basement of a church. Again, started off with 5 young people in the basement of the church to now 7th cohort, 2023 to 2025. We are now serving 350 plus students during the school day and 45 kids on the weekend. Wow. We are exposing young people to the possibilities that can really change their trajectory. We are exposing them to power skills, which are the skills and attributes that separates you from your peers to succeed in life. Many of you may know it as soft skills, but we call it power skills. Code switching, networking one-on-one, critical decision-making, getting you ready to be able to be in those rooms, identifying your mentors and your social capacity, understanding how to get your letter of recommendation ready. All of these things that many of us know, but unfortunately, all of these things are not being taught into school. There was a Saturday session that I was teaching a lesson on time management. And what happened, which was very interesting of it, is that we had a student raise her hand. She said, Mr. Denos, why aren't we being taught this in school? And honestly, family, because we are family now, we're in the living room, as was mentioned, a light bulb went off. Why aren't we being taught this in school? This is something that we need for our young people. And my mission and my goal as the founder, the visionary, and the executive director of Leaders of the 21st Century is to serve more students, not just in Newark, New Jersey, not just in Essex County, but within the states of this country, and if not the world. This is some of the data that we've been able to achieve these past couple of years with Leaders of the 21st Century. All of our young people who participate in our Saturday program, 100% have gone accepted into college. And here are some of the examples of the schools that they've been accepted into. We've had an average of a 3.8 average GPA of students who participate in our Saturday program. We've so far have served over 770 young people in Essex County. We have over 7,000 hours of community service earned through our young people, 3.7 million in scholarship, and 88% of our young people feel more confident in public speaking. And what I'm so excited about is the same curriculum that we provide to our fellows who apply to our program to participate in our Saturday fellowship is the same curriculum that's being taught to students during the school day. And the reason why I mentioned about the school day is more so because those students, many of them are not applying to a Saturday program like Leaders of the 21st Century. Many of them may even feel that I don't want to be in school. Many of them may feel that, that program is not for me. That's for that kid. But the fact of it is now that we are in the building, it doesn't matter where you are along that continuum. We are providing you this information. And the hope is that seed that is planted in you will be able to grow and germinate into something greater. Just like it happened for me when I was a young person, and being able to have great mentors expose me to different things and different information and different ways of thinking is my hope to do the same thing for our young generation in today's society. Our organization has grown from being able to start in the basement of a church to now having, 2 major contracts with the Board of Education and Newark Youth Career Pathways. Our partnerships have been this so far, and our grants have been this so far. Yes, we are still looking to expand. Yes, we need more funding. Yes, we're looking to be able to serve more people. So those of you who are online and have the connection and resources to point us in the right direction, please do so. It will be extremely, extremely helpful. And I want to leave you with this. This is the book that I have written. We are in the 3rd phase. And what I mean by 3rd phase is we're going through the revision editing right now. I've interviewed highly skilled professionals that I felt who are really, truly doing their work in terms of exposure mentorship and its impact on diversity, equity, inclusion, whether it is in government, whether it is in business, or whether it is in education. I've interviewed college presidents. I've interviewed a young lady who was Forbes 30 under 30 in the tech world, and she was able to give me insight on how she was able to impact diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've interviewed CEOs of large organizations and program managers as well, and I took their stories and intertwined it with my own to put it into this book. Because I believe this information that's not being taught in school, or this information that's not being shared amongst your colleagues, needs to be put into the right hands of making a difference in this world. The book is in its third phase. In February, we will be handing in the final revision. And from the final revision, the book will then be printed. And then this spring, we will be able to give out the books to everyone who pre-ordered a copy already, and everyone who participated in a pre-sale already. But in this case, if you would like to be able to pre-order your copy, you can follow the QR code here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read an excerpt for you, an excerpt from the book. You know, this is the first time I'm doing this. This is the first time that I'm doing this. This is something that I felt would be helpful to kind of explain a little bit more about my journey. The reason why I wrote The Power of Exposure is because I believe that oftentimes access to information is limited based on where you are from and who you know. I'm passionate about human beings working on themselves, becoming their best version based off of my success and the many great mentors that I've interviewed in this book, I believe can be replicated for everyone. I believe my life experiences has allowed me to serve as a liaison between two worlds, to allow both of these worlds to understand one another, but more importantly, build a relationship between them so that mentors and mentees can thrive. You will love this book if you're looking to explore new ways.
There's a lot of static right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Start talking again. Let me see if I hear it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no static.
Okay, great. Thank you. You would love this book if you're looking. You would love this book if you're looking to explore new ways to enhance your career or looking to better serve as a mentor or mentee. The many outstanding mentors that I've interviewed, in my opinion, are doing an amazing job in creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforce. College, university, and the pipeline to exposure through mentorship. And here is the excerpt that I will read for you. Code switching first happened to me at Hobart and William Smith colleges, and I didn't even realize it was happening. It was not something that was taught, and it was not done in a way to change who I was. Through my time working in President Guerin's office, I did not know there was an appropriate way to dress for the work in an office. I would show up with my colorful Coogee sweater, baggy jeans, and Timberland boots on. President Guerin never pulled me aside to say, "Hey, Dan, I love your style, but your outfit for the office should look more like this." I felt proud of my culture and did not think I would have to accept anything that someone would tell me otherwise at that time. One evening as a student trustee, we attended a board dinner meeting at a local restaurant downtown Geneva. I was nervous and worried that I did not have the proper etiquette on how to interact with wealthy people, and that I would stick out like a red dot on an all-white painting, especially in regard to how I spoke. There, I saw Bill Whitaker, a smooth gentleman who gracefully walked into the room. His thick mustache reminded me of Alec Trebek on Jeopardy. Everyone greeted him with a big smile. "Hi, Bill, you made it." Another board member trustee would shout across the room as they embraced with a handshake. Bill had a long black Burberry trench coat in the middle of winter. This was my first time seeing a black man in a Burberry trench coat. He was not the first black man I met who was a millionaire. He was the first black man I met who was a millionaire. He had class, culture, and confidence. He dressed well. This was the moment I realized I needed to polish up my appearance and dress appropriately for the different rooms I invited to. Bill Whitaker served as a North Star for me for a very long time. As someone who liked me, looked like me, and garnered much success. Being that I was only 20 years old at the time, I knew I wanted to be in a position like him, to make an impact in the world based on his work and his role of a board of trustee member on the college's board. Bill is an American television journalist correspondent on the CBS News program 60 Minutes. I begin to understand it is not phony nor being a sellout to adopt different social norms, dress codes, or communication patterns when interacting with individuals from different cultural backgrounds. Code switching can be used in multicultural or multilingual environments where people have to navigate between different cultural or linguistic groups. It can be driven by the desire to establish rapport, avoid misunderstandings, or conform to social expectations. Code switching can have both positive and negative implications. It can facilitate effective communication, bridge cultural gaps, and promote inclusivity. It allows individuals to connect with different communities and navigate diverse social settings. However, code switching can also be a result of social pressures, discrimination, or the need to conform, which may have emotional or psychological impacts on individuals. I want to be clear, this was not my first time seeing a Black man dress up. This was not. My father, Pastor Rosemond Denos, would wear dress pants and dress shirt and a blazer even on his off days. I was also accustomed with business casual attire and dressing up for special days and events, but something clicked when I saw him, Bill Whitaker. It all began to make sense how the world can view you based on how you dress and speak. And if you know how to switch your jargon to be understood, it will come in handy for you. That is an excerpt from one of the chapters of the book. I hope this presentation was helpful for you in some ways. If there's anything that you took out of this presentation, I encourage you. If you are not mentoring thus far, please grab a young person, grab someone from your workforce. And if you're interested in supporting the journey of leaders of the 21st century, I encourage you to donate. We are looking for funders. We want to expand. If you have any relationships or connection with superintendents, we would welcome that introduction to be able to present the program that we are doing for our young people. We are not just destined to be in the state of New Jersey. We're also looking to expand to New York as well as Pennsylvania. More young people need this information. And I believe now that we all are family in the living room, that we will be able to accomplish this together. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. I thank you for lending me your ears for today's presentation. I thank you so much for all the great things that you all are doing in the lives of others who may be along this journey and trying to figure out how can they make a difference. And the different maker is based off of one critical thing that I believe, just exposing people to opportunities, exposing them to new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing life. And I'm sure the blessing that you are for someone else will surely come back to you tenfold. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If there are any questions, please, I welcome them. And I'm looking to now having a dialogue with you all.
Wonderful. That was extraordinary. Thank you so much. Really, really inspiring. Don is here, and before we get very deep in questions and our exchange, let him say a few words because he has to leave early. You're muted, Don.
Yes, thank you. I want to really express my gratitude to everyone who's in the virtual living room. And I want to extend the invitation that you continue to do so as we close out our 2023 and begin March 23rd for the next one. I appreciate you, Dan. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your history of service. And I want to just comment that your presentation takes me back to a point that I've been trying to make all my life, which is we are really the product of those who we interact and experience on our journey, but we're also a product and connected to the people in our past, the people who have transitioned, our ancestors, And it is the work of our ancestors that have produced the footsteps for us to follow. And so we always take a moment of reflection on the DV Connector Network virtual living room. And I want to initiate that now with a few moments of silence as we remember what I call the fallen leaves from our sturdy tree. And I know that between the last event and this event, Dan, I've experienced, the transition of many who have preceded me and who have preceded all of us. And I can just begin to reflect their faces, their lives, their stories, because all of their stories cumulatively are really a product of what they have done on this earth and what they've done with us to make a difference and be the difference on this earth. So I just want to call a moment of reflection. I know one of them recently was a cousin to Doreen, and that is Anna Marie Bethia. And that's another thing with our ancestors. We need to mention their names as we keep their memories alive in our hearts because they're worthy. And just as we are doing the work in the field of service, we too are laying the footsteps for those who are yet to be born, for those who are yet not even conceived. And that's why we're making this passionate investment in time of service. So let's just take a moment to remember those who have fallen and transitioned. Thank you. Oftentimes I take moments in silence, and sometimes those who know you moments in darkness, because those moments are powerful. It allows me to begin to absorb the words of speakers and presenters such as Dan and others. And those words sink in and make a difference. And then I share those experiences with younger people because that is my task. I share willingly. And so, Dan, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you've done and all that you've invested and all that you will continue to do. You have planted seeds, you continue to plant seeds. They are beginning, to come in for harvest. And by this exchange and this interchange, we know that we welcome you, we embrace you, and we're extremely grateful for you. So thank you very much, and hope that you will join us on March 23rd, when our theme will be freedom, and will be graced in the virtual living room by Adrian Council. So that exchange is going to follow yours, and it is right on point and on time. So thank you so much. And I appreciate all who are here and present, and I want to wish you all the best for the season's greetings, and be safe, and looking forward to reuniting again. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone who has any questions? Thank you, Don. Glad you were able to spend that time with us. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute or place your question in the chat, or just raise your hand and jump in. I'm wondering, Dan, about the point you mentioned where the students said, "Why aren't we being taught this in school?" And I'm curious about the relationship you may have with politicians in the state of New Jersey on education policy and the curriculum.
So I can't speak in terms of the policies that are in place, but I can speak on is that there is a state mandate in terms of like CTE learning, career technical education. And with that, you know, there are different forms that are kind of aligned with what we are doing in terms of professional skills, because there is a bracket that exists for professional skills, which is exactly what we do. So it exists, but it also depends on what type of sessions are being given to the students. In this particular case, the lesson on time management is something that's not being taught in school, right? How do you prioritize your time? Or in some of the other cases where we visit our classrooms in partnership with NYCP, which is Newark Youth Career Pathways, they're the ones who brought us on board to serve our curriculum to the 350 plus students throughout Essex County. You know, in terms of critical thinking and decision making, that is not necessarily something that is being taught inside the classroom. Now, yes, they had to make decisions all the time. Yes, they're critical thinkers, but the presentation itself, the process in terms of going through the list, right, that is not being taught in that way. And that's what makes our curriculum so unique, is the interaction in the presentation in terms of like the pre-activity and the lessons that are being taught and the learning goal is what makes that special program.
Thank you for that.
Okay. So Dan, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
I'm actually doing my book launch on Friday for my third book, and it's an exciting experience. You guys are welcome to join in Friday at noon. I think I got the link in the chat, but I'll add it again. But you know, I found it to be a pretty interesting experience, and you know, I wanted to know how long it took you to write your book, what you learned the most out of writing a book, and then, you know, did it change who you are as a person and how people viewed you? So just definitely had a big experience impact on me, and you know, it would be great to hear how it's impacted you.
You know, it's a great question, especially that you are now a 3-time author, right? So you know the journey, and I hope that the third one's probably easier than the first one, because this first, woo, I mean, it is a process. It was a huge process. I went the route of working with a company, and this company that I'm working with, you know, there's different stages throughout this process. And even before we got into writing, right, it was, you know, I had to attend some classes to kind of get ready. I had to watch some video links to get ready. You know, before I even did the outline, right, it was, you know, start writing, and in that. So one of the biggest things that I've learned in writing is that it's you become super vulnerable. You go into a place where memories that you may have forgotten, or experiences that you probably say, you know, I don't want to relive those experiences. They come up. They come up in a pure, authentic, you know, fiery way. And in some cases, you know, it was vivid, you know, that I could remember waiting in the principal's office, right? I remember, you know, seeing Bill Whitaker cross the street and snow was falling as he popped his collar. I was like, whoa, wow, this is, what kind of cold is that? You know, but it is for sure, you know, probably one of the most humbling experiences. And I would say that the hardest part that's happening is what's happening now. The first part was the first draft, which I thought was very difficult, right? Having to just write. And that was the goal. Just write, just keep writing, Don't focus on grammar, just write. And now in the revision stage with the revision editor, you know, with all the comments and the marking up and like reorganizing and reformatting, you then go back to the writing. And now the way that you're perceiving it looks much different than the first draft, right? So now I feel like the revision is making it even stronger in a way, because I feel a little bit more confident in what I'm sharing with the world. I mean, it's been great. We had a pre-sale, which we did extremely well in. We sold over 250 copies. You know, we've had folks who ordered in bulks, and all of the names of everyone who did the pre-sale, not the pre-order, but the pre-sale, they are in the acknowledgement session, which I think is so cool, because if it wasn't for the pre-sale, the publishing fee wouldn't have been covered. So all of the pre-sale orders is what's helped the publishing cost, which is, you know, very expensive. So I'm very grateful for everyone who helped in that way. And I'm also thankful for those who are planning on pre-ordering. We've had some opportunities to speak on a platform such as this. And we also have been invited to speak at a college about this experience, about the power of exposure. The president ordered, 25 copies, which includes a virtual presentation. And then they also will get it signed as well. So yeah, so great question, Andrew. And congratulations to you, man. Congratulations. Not easy.
No, definitely not. So that's a great accomplishment.
Thank you.
Simon, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, I'm just having my brunch right now. So Dan, congratulations on being an overcomer. Thank you for sharing your experience. I don't know why my camera is doing this. I was trying to fix it, but I can't. I just wanted to say this is, your story is timely. I was just on the phone. So I run a nonprofit for youth as well. And I was just on the phone yesterday with one of my students' parents. And I had a lot going on with grants and just helping kids prepare for college and schools, school tests. And so we hadn't spoken in a while. And I spoke to her. I can't see Dan, so okay, there you are. I spoke to her yesterday, and come to find out, her son, who was a straight A student, went to a new school, and is now an F student. He has quite a few Fs. He has ADHD. The school is not doing their job in giving him his accommodations. Mom is a single mom, and his behavior has escalated to just not listening in school, not listening to the teachers. They will put him in the front of the class, and he finds his way to the back of the class. They're not signing his planner because, quote, he's not bringing it to them, but that's an accommodation. But more importantly, what was shocking to me is that he's now started stealing from his mother. And this is mom's second son. The first one was pretty much, very, very smart boy. But again, like your experience, the environment. I was very surprised to hear that you had two parents in the home, two active parents in the home. I come from the hood, and I always thought growing up that when that kids who had two parents in the home just had a totally better life than me. I didn't know that even with your parents being active, that you could go astray. I do know that the environment that he's in with mom, he's pretty much raising himself. She's working all the time. I do know that there are experiences and examples that he's seen that are not quite conducive to a productive environment. He's in Florida. That's the major issue. So I was talking to her and talking to my husband last night, and she had an opportunity to have one of her male friends who was her boyfriend, kind of another Haitian guy, who said, how you're raising him is going to be an issue. So let me step in. And she did a little bit, but there were so many, when you're raised, I don't know if you know this, but when you're raised by a single parent, sometimes these moms won't allow people to tell their kids what to do, especially not men, especially if it's not their dad. And so she would always stick up for him. Everybody knew that he was for lack of a better word, he is someone that doesn't tell the truth all the time. And so she would always believe him first, though. And so I'm just wondering, I just, as you were speaking today, I said to my husband, I have to call her back and tell her, because she's saying, I just want to, I'm just so done with him. Plus, she's got her own stuff going on, her own stuff that's stressing her out in the past 2 weeks. She's crying every day. But she was saying, man, I'm just ready to give him up for adoption. Like, he just needs to go. Oh, I was saying with the older son, who is 19 now, this boy is about 12 or 13. Really smart boy. But he also, because of the bad influences from his father, he said, I'm done with mom. I'm getting out of here. He went to live with his father. Now he's a weed head. He's selling drugs. He's constantly in and out of jail, driving without a license. You know, it's just really, so he's now no longer in the house and hasn't been there for more than 5 years now. So now it's just a little one home. And, you know, it seems like he's going down the same path, even though that he was really smart. So I said to my husband when you were talking, I said, I have to call her back and let her know he does need to leave her house some way, somehow. So you kind of cut up, or maybe I zoned out for a minute. I did hear you say that you did leave the house, but how did you go about leaving the house? And I was thinking to also tell her she definitely has to get him involved in other activities so that he's outside the house. I like the idea of the Saturday program, but you know, she's usually not there. He's literally raising himself, and you know, the lying and stealing. But how did your parents get you to leave and go live with the host parents? How long was it? And what is your advice that I can share with this mom?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this story of your parent, because I know I can hear in your voice that, you know, this is it's an inflicting pain, you know, that you really want what's best for this family. It seems like there's a relationship between you and this family as well.
And
So
she wants me to take him, and I just can't.
I understand.
I can't. I
I
got 4 kids of my own.
I get it. I completely get it. So this is a unique and tricky situation. What I mean by unique, not unique because this has never happened before. We hear this all the time, but unique in the case that that it would require, I think, a different avenue for this youngest, because really the focus now is how do we save this youngest sibling, right? Who's 12, 13, you said?
Yes, and she said one of her friends just told her he's at risk, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is exactly it. He is absolutely at risk."
Yeah. So in my story, you know, this I didn't go through a program, right? Which is what makes this a little bit, you know, tricky, because it wasn't like I signed up for, let's say, the program called, you know, New Doors, right? It wasn't a program. It was simply me being a camper at this summer program with 100 other boys. And in that, the camp director came up with this idea. And that idea, based off of the fact that he was also a pastor at a church in Geneva, and he had a family in Geneva who at the time didn't have children. She was the choir director. Wendy was the choir director of the church.
Geneva is a city?
Geneva, New York. Yep, Geneva, New
Oh,
York.
New York.
Yep. And in that, you know, he pitched it to the family and he pitched it to me. And it was something that I felt that I needed to do. And the reason why I felt that I needed to do was because, again, I've come from a household where my parents did everything they possibly could. My dad's a pastor. You know, my mom worked very hard. He worked very hard, but, you know, the neighborhood, you know, from the hood, you know, I mean, you know, shootings. I mean, we know the story, you know, we know how it was, especially in the 90s. And from what I saw, having to go to school every day, going past the open drug market, because, you know, then people were selling drugs out on the corners, you know, it wasn't this whole new thing that's happening. I just felt that I needed something different. I felt that, you know, I was more than this. And I had some friends who I saw already leaning down the path, and I saw me going down that path too. And I didn't want that for me.
How old were you when you knew that in your head?
11 years old. I was 11. So really 10 was when I began to kind of feel this, like something needs to be different. And what my mom and dad did was, you know, they prayed on it, because again, I can't imagine now being a father, allowing my youngest to go away. You know, I can't imagine that sacrifice that was required for my mom and dad to say, you know what, we believe this is what's good for you. And we won't see you throughout the year, only in the summertime and maybe through holidays. But through September all the way to June, for the most part, I'm away. I'm living with Wendy and Jim, who've now become like second parents to me. So in this case with this young person, you know, I would recommend, you know, if they're, first of all, the parent may need to find someone to advocate for the child to be, to get his IEP. You know, if he needs accommodations, then
I am the advocate, and I just missed one call the other day, and that was the call, the catalyst that this call had never happened before, where we find like he has totally gone from A's and B's struggling, I mean B's and C's to now F's. So yeah, the school is not doing what they have to do, but I will continue to advocate. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then, you know, part of the advocacy, you know, is I would recommend, I don't know what school district this is, and I don't need to know what school district it is, and I don't need to know what school the child goes to, but every parent has the right to petition and go to a school board meeting, you know, so I would go through the chains of command first. Whoever is the principal needs to be aware. The principal's not doing what needs to be done, then you go to the next level. The next level is maybe the person who's the boss of the principal. If that person's not doing it, then you go to the next level. You then go to the superintendent, because the superintendent is the boss of everyone. And if the superintendent's not doing it, then you then go to the next level, which I would say is now the board of that school district, where you can go to a meeting and you can then talk about, you know, what needs to be done for this child. You know, because this isn't my lane, you know, I'm not a social worker, so I don't know all the technical terms, but I am a advocate. And in that, you know, that is probably the best way to kind of go through the different stages to be able to advocate for this child. You know, I'm sorry that you're going through this, and the family's going through this as well.
And what are your thoughts on him leaving the house? The school, you mentioned the school stuff, but what are your thoughts about various environments?
I think change environment would be great, you know, but for me, you know, I look at it more so as not so much the competency of a young person, because I've mentored a lot of brilliant people. You know, they just need the support to untap their brilliance. But my thing is, along my journey, is I cannot mentor someone who doesn't want to have the commitment of wanting to make a difference in their lives. You know, so in this particular case, you know, if he's willing to be committed to make a difference, then more than half the battle is taken care of. Because the competency, obviously, he's a smart kid. Obviously, he's a smart kid, right? I mean, that's not the issue. So the competency is there, but it's the commitment of wanting to make a difference. Is that big? And that commitment, I would say relocating would be a great thing, but then where and what type of program would be able to sign? Is there a family member who could take him in where he wouldn't influence other children in the household if needed? So very tricky situation.
All right, I'll have a conversation with her and him to kind of get that. That's what I was thinking too, like to get his gauge on what he think is going on, and is he mature enough to articulate that and see that, you know, he needs a change.
Yeah, and then the last thing I would say too is that the last thing I would say too is that if not, you know, therapy might be helpful for this young kid. You know,
Mom can't afford the copays. She don't have any insurance right now, so she can't afford it. But as soon as she can, I will tell her. But then, yeah, I don't know. It's just so much because she's never home for him to have therapy. So maybe he can do it virtually. But I will definitely. And actually, somebody just said in New Jersey, but he's actually in Florida. That's the main issue. He's in Florida. Yeah. But thank you so much. I will engage with the mom and give her these suggestions. I appreciate it, and I pray continued success over your life, and that the Father would keep you and sustain you and your family, and just return everything to you 1,000-fold. Just know that your blessing don't always come from those who, and you may already know this, those who you actually help. It may come from just totally different people. And you will also see, at least I've seen this in my family, that my children wind up being so blessed by just random people. And I know it's as a result of the covering, the anointing, falling from us down to our children. So I just pray that for yours as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Question in the chat from Ann Smith. She's driving, so she can't be on camera. Ann has been mentoring for a couple of decades, and she asked the question, in your experience, bear with me here because it's a little long. In your experience, have you noticed a shift in how youth gravitate to opportunities, relate to mentors? She says, while it seems like the basic principles remain the same, essentially be available and present and providing a safe space and opportunity. What are some recommended engagement methods or approaches you can share for youth not necessarily interested in traditional college path?
So great question. And part of what we do in our program is the kids who are applying typically are students who are kind of already on path to go to college. But everyone who's part of the interview process, with what I've noticed, is that they're all lacking these fundamental skills of human interaction, right? A lot of the digital world that we're in now, a lot of them are now, having difficulty having this one-to-one eye contact. Some of the things that kind of just self-explanatory, but not so much. So what I would say is that, the way that we do in our program is that we have a lot of hands-on opportunities in terms of like the development of our young people. A lot of the activities that we do prior to the curriculum is usually what I call icebreakers or pre-activity. And that range supports anyone, no matter what track you're on. The other thing too is that, the students that we've also worked with during the school day, some of the schools that we're working with are technical schools. A lot of these students are going into the trade. So the curriculum also supports them, because even if you're a mechanic, well, how do you brand and market yourself as a mechanic? This is part of our curriculum. If you are going into cosmetology and you're focused on this, how do you get ready for an internship or as an apprentice, right? So we teach you how to obtain that. And once you get it, what then happens after you leave, right? What's the power of following up, effective communication, how you draft a professional email. I explained to our young people, emails aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So no matter what field you go into, there's going to have to be some form of communication that doesn't look like a text, right, on your phone, right? This requires you to actually draft up the email. And we teach them that. We walk them through. There's a template that I've created that kind of helps them kind of navigate that when drafting an email to a professional, because the idea is that we want them to connect with these professionals who are mentors. What I've learned that is difference between these years, because I would say when the organization was founded in 2015, our first cohort was in 2016, or 2017. What I've seen within the years is that there are more young people who actually want this. Now, it could be because of marketing, so more information is out. But as I'm seeing within the cohorts of the young people, they're becoming a little bit more focused on, this is what I want for my lifestyle. They may not know necessarily what the path may be in their career. Many of them do, but many of them know that this is the type of lifestyle that I want. I want to be successful. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. And then based off of what we do, we say, okay, well, you want to be there, but you may also want to be there. Anywhere you're going, this information is going to be helpful for you. And that's our approach, that we just want them to succeed, wherever that is and however that is. We want them to succeed in life. And then we also want them to be that bridge to be able to help others cross that bridge that they've crossed. So a lot of the lessons that we teach them and the pledge that we do is that this is not just for you, it's also for your community. You'll make your family proud, your community proud, you'll make yourself proud, because the idea is that, this information, you've been privileged to be a part of this. So it's not just about you, it's also about all those who are after you as well.
Great, thank you, thank you. Ann Ria has dropped her email address in the chat. I have copied it and I'll be sure you get it once we're done. She says she wants to be in touch with you about the program.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Please feel free to jump in. I'm curious about something. Your family life. You are the youngest of 7 children, I believe you said.
Yes.
And by that time, all of your older siblings have grown up, and here you are going through what you're going through, and yet you turned out so successful. What has your impact been on the family, your siblings?
Well, that's a great question. I love my family. And I think part of the reason why I love them so much is because, we were extremely blessed by having great parents, right? Mom and dad, this American dream. My dad was an educator in Haiti. He was a founder of a school actually in Haiti. So he comes from that type of background. And then he and my mom decided to come to America, right? And the lifestyle of how they were living in Haiti, which was very well actually, to then come to America, I mean, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. But they did this because of the possibility of what this could do for their future children that they didn't have just yet. So I recognize the sacrifices early on of you could have been living like this on a hill somewhere, but yet you wanted to do something for children that weren't even born yet to be able to do this for us. All of my siblings, you know, are very talented, very smart, very gifted. God has blessed us. You know, I have a sister who's very good at playing the piano, musicians. One sister used to play the violin. I mean, we've had great. One brother went to the military, joined the Navy, did extremely well there. Unfortunately, you know, he passed away a couple of years ago from COVID. So now I'm the youngest of six, you know, but, you know, what I've learned in all of this is that they didn't get the same opportunity that I had though. You know, and I used to feel guilty about that for a long time. You know, I had an older brother who, unfortunately, you know, circumstances of the streets, you know, made him make some poor decisions. And those decisions has impacted him still to this day. You know, just as smart, just as talented, probably, if anything, probably more smart, more talented, more charisma, you know, than I am. Better athlete, you know, I mean, better. I mean, he is like Dan, you know, point, I guess, I don't know, like 10 times in many ways. I find like, wow, man, you're that guy, you're him. But unfortunately, the streets, you know, made him live a certain way and took him on a bad path, which was also part of my decision making as a young kid to say, I don't want to be like that. You know, I've seen the type of things you put the family through. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my mom. I don't want that for my dad. We all have the same last name. I want my last name to be clean when I pass it down to my children. And in that, you know, that level of guilt has been, you know, how can I do what I can to help elevate and support my family, my brothers, my sisters. I've been able to help all these other young people, even some adults, you know, that names don't need to be mentioned, helping people find opportunities. You know, they do very well. They go off and forget about me, you know, but my sister and brothers, you know, sisters and brothers, you know, they're still here with me. This is my family. So how is it that I'm not able to help them? You know, how am I not able to brainstorm with them and support them? So yes, everyone's very proud. Everyone's very proud. Everyone's very happy. My second family, Geneva, New York, you know, she's like a mother to me, you know, he's like a father to me. I still call them Wendy and Jim, you know, but they're like my parents. They are my parents, right? They helped raise me. But for me, there was a level of guilt. There was a level of, you know what, you know, why me and why not them? And in that, you know, this is part of the development of, even though I may think that for my siblings, I also think of that for these other kids who look like me in a Newark, New Jersey, or a Patterson, or a Plainfield, or a Brooklyn, or an Orlando, right? Or Savannah, Georgia, you know, or Los Angeles. You know, we can keep going through all these cities who have folks who look like us to disfranchise. You about to get me going now. I'm about to start going, you know? You know, so with all that, there is a level of why me and why not you? No, I didn't do anything special for this. Now, I believe God has chosen me, right? I believe I've been called for this. I believe that I am still unqualified, but he qualifies the unqualified, right? You know, but with all of that, I say to myself, if I have just a short time left on this planet, what is it that I can do to make somewhat of a difference, to make this world a better place? And in that, this is the path that I believe that I was called to do. And I know, and you've opened up another envelope for me. You know, when I was in college, it was my sophomore year. I actually had a dream about this. Now I don't know if anyone else walks in their gifts, you know, but I had a dream about this. In my dream, I saw me starting a program, and in the program, it was working with young people. And I woke up from this dream, right? I thought when Dr. King said this was a metaphor. I had a dream, right? I thought it was a metaphor. And I woke up from this dream. I then went to my friends in the cafeteria. I said, hey, I had a dream last night, guys. And this dream that I had, I'm supposed to start a program focusing on youth. And I said, are you guys down? They say, sure, we're down. So in college, we started a program called Leaders of Tomorrow. And that was the video clip that I showed you, the old video. young skinny Dan, no beard, not married yet, didn't know my wife existed yet, but thank God he found her for me, So all of these things, I saw this as like, okay, so I have a dream, I'm starting this program, but I don't really see how this is going to be. College finishes, I then go in politics. Still remember the dream. Finished the job of Cory Booker, then worked in HR. Still remember the dream. Then went to become a community organizer, right? Working with parents. Still remember the dream. Then it was in graduate school, I said to myself, you know what? If I'm in graduate school and I feel like I'm supposed to build this, you know what? Why not for my final thesis? Because the way the graduate program is, you're supposed to research other programs. That's what you're supposed to do. You're basically like a consultant in a way. It's like we want you to work with Purple Rain, right? We want you to work with Purple Rain, and we want you to be able to research like the effectiveness, whatever the case may be. And you do that. What I said to my advisor was, what I want to do is I want to research my own organization. He said that hasn't been done. I said, well, can I do it? He said, well, technically, yes. And that was the birth of researching what it makes an organization leadership program effective, and what are restraints and what are the shortcomings of a leadership program. And in that, I saw all these programs doing phenomenally well in preparing young people for college. That was hands down. But what I saw was that they were lacking in what I believe was some fundamental professional development skills to help you transition from high school to college, or high school to career, or high school to the military. All of these journeys and stories that I've explained to you about the Board of Trustees and Geneva, New York, and camp and all these different things, there are some people I had access to that taught me things along the way that, again, that's not being taught in school. A lot of these families who grow up with this is what they already know. It's not a, are you going to go to college? It is, which college you're going to. It is, I don't know how to network. You've been networking because you've been going to holiday parties in the business, partner of law firm since you were 5 years old. Or I'm not a good writer, but you're a great writer because your mother's an editor of New York Times. So they grew up, they grow with this environment. They grow in this understanding that this is what's expected of you. It's not even a thought, Right. But for many of us, it is, how do we go about this? How do we figure this out? So all of that, of what I've been able to see with these eyes and what I've experienced, I knew how helpful it was. But what does research say? And then I said, okay, I have enough research and understanding that now I could build this organization. And that was the catalyst of building Leaders of the 21st Century curriculum. It's a leadership component, right, that gets you ready as a leader, because I don't want you to be at the head of the table and not knowing how to lead. I want you to be the greatest in your role as a leader so that you can throw a rope for someone behind you. So when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is the way to do that.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
If I'm in a position.
It's a question from Desiree Manning, but finish your point there, and then we'll go to her.
Yeah, so I'll just keep it. I'll end it with this. Is that there's someone that I interviewed in my book named Ron Andrews. It looks funny, Don and Ron. Two great mentors of mine. Yeah. And Ron Andrews used to be the in charge of U.S. human resources for Prudential National, right? For all of human resources for Prudential throughout the United States of America, he was in charge of, right? He was and they built a scholarship in his name. That's how good he was at his jobs. So when he retired, scholarship. Okay, great. And what he was explaining to me in the interview was like how unapologetic he was with, no, we need diversity, equity, inclusion. Before it was even a word, it was like, no, we need this. No, you want to hire people who are talented? I can show you where the talent is. And it looked like me, so let me show you. Let me show you how we could do this. So it is a need. It is a need. And the way to do that is we got to get our young people ready to be in position to do so. And I teach them the leadership development, but also these professional development skills as well.
Thank you. Desiree, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Desiree Manning, and I hail from New Brunswick, New Jersey. My question is, I was a single parent to a young Black boy, and we lived in Maplewood, New Jersey. However, I sent him to school in Newark. Part in part and parcel because at the time Maplewood didn't have half-day kindergarten, and I worked full-time and didn't have the resources to have my son picked up half-day. So I brought him to school in Newark where I worked, and it worked out. So he spent all of his formative years in Newark, being raised in Newark, through the public school system. And when he got to embark upon sixth grade, he said he begged to go to Maplewood school system. He wanted to be with his friends. So I allowed him to do that. So fast forward to high school, we get to high school, and I said, don't know what you have in mind as far as career or what you would like to do, but you're going to college. There's nothing else for you to do. You cannot work out of high school. So he bought into that. I had the strong arm on him on that. He went to Rutgers University. He is a Rutgers alum. And as a result, he's a global scholar, Paul Robeson scholar, and got all the accolades, all the awards. So it wasn't easy, to say the least. However, during that journey, he struggled a little bit. So as I said, he went to school in Newark, and some of his classmates in Newark didn't succeed, and they kind of fell off, dropped off as they were matriculating, as he was matriculating. So I wanted to know what was the difference. There were some of his friends, African-American males in particular, who were raised in two-parent households, whether it was two females, two males, or a male and female household. Some of his friends succeeded along with him, but most of them didn't. I'm interested in knowing, he was raised in a single-parent household. Why was he successful when he wasn't any different than any of his classmates? My question that I did put into the chat, what was the rhetoric of African-American males in higher education? So he was able to make it on to higher education, but once he got there, what was the principles, what were the rules, or what influenced him to be able to go on to make it to higher education versus his friends, and then he was able to be successful?
I think that's a great question, a question that he might be able to answer better than me, since it's his personal journey. But from looking from the outside in, I'm sure if you went through the list of his characteristics, there was something that your son was demonstrating of this fire, this desire of wanting to do well for himself. And I mean, there's a baseline level of confidence of like, I want to do well, right? Now, how that's being taught and instilled, now that might be a different avenue. And for me, that avenue was just from what I saw and what I didn't want for myself. I just didn't want that for myself. And then when we peel back the layers, to be honest with you, this may sound very cliche or a generic answer, but honestly, God, I just got to keep it a buck with you all. I mean, honestly, it was God's doing. It was God's doing. And I'm gonna get real personal with you all right now. When I was in third grade, I was going to skip school. Because remember, I struggled in school, so I didn't want to go to school this day. I was going to pretend to be sick, right? Say that I have a stomach ache. And with that, what I decided to do was to call my mom and say I was going to skip school. And something in my spirit told me, go to school. And then I'm picking up the phone, my spirit, go to school. And then in that, I then went to school. When I went to school, there was a teacher there who said, Dan, we have someone here who wants to hear you sing. I then sang for the lady. When I sang, I said, then sang for the gentleman. When I sang for the gentleman, he then said, all right, would you ever consider attending a school that you sang, North Boys Chorus School? Then I said, let me speak to my parents about it. So my parents about it, they said, our prayers have been answered. We've been praying for at least one of our children to attend a private school. So then I go to North Boys Chorus School. North Boys Chorus School, I'm getting a lot of trouble, a lot of nonsense. Then another opportunity opened. I go to the military summer program. So that throughout all of these journeys, I think to myself, if it wasn't for that day in third grade where I decided to be obedient to what I felt in my spirit to do, where would I be today? And in that, you know, that was the beginning for all of these things along the journey. So a lot of factors to it. Although I was getting into nonsense, there was still a sense of like, I believe that God has somewhat of a plan for me, that there's something bigger and better waiting for me. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I believe it's there. And in that, I then begin to try to find that. So your son would be the best one to answer all the inner workings of what led him to be who he is. But from the outside looking in, that's what I would say, that he had something in him that really wanted, because we can say it's access, we could say it's exposure, but were his friends also exposed to other things like he was? Maybe, or maybe not. And if that's not the case, then well, what was it inside that allowed your son to say, you know, I'm going to be steadfast, versus his friends who may have said, you know what, I don't care about this. So
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. Thank you.
welcome.
Well, we're getting close to the end here. Miss Simon, see your hand is raised. Do you have another question, or is that lingering from your first question?
No question, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? We want to be mindful of the time. Perhaps we can take one more, but if not, that's just fine. Don, if you're still around, maybe you want to have some closing remarks, or Andrew, please feel free to step up at this point.
All right. So no more questions. All right. Well, thank you very much again, Dan, for sharing what you're doing. Definitely doing some great things that are necessary in the community. So, you know, look forward to us being able to support what you're doing, and just be encouraged by it as well. So thanks again for taking the time to hang out with us in the living room, and you know, make it a great session. I see Don's here, so I'll let you take.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone again. I want to thank Dan, and I want to just emphasize that it's our cumulative experiences with each other, and that's why the each one, reach one, teach one is so important. But it's the impact that we make, because every single choice that we have has a consequence. So choices have to be carefully devised. They have to be divinely pursued, because the consequences can make a dramatic difference as to the path that we must take as we seek to fulfill our destiny and we seek to complete our mission and our purpose on this earth. Thank you all so much for attending, and season's greetings once more, and be safe.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So take care. Join us on March 23rd, 2024.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Totally enjoyed this.
Thank
Very
you.
inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations on your book.